This is Secondary 1 Math Lesson number 6-2. Okay, the first thing is we're going to review doing a mapping diagram to represent the relation. So here's our relation, and so we're going to represent it with a mapping diagram. So I'm going to take all the domain numbers, which are all the x's or all the input, and I'm going to list them. So -7 will be first because it's the smallest, then -3, and then +5, and then +11, and +15. And then my range numbers, I'm just going to list those: -9, -4, -1, 0, and the -1 I'm not going to write twice. Now, there is a repeat there, but it's in the range, not in the domain, so it's not a problem. So I'm going to draw an arrow to all of my matches, so 5, -4, 3, -1, 11, 0, and 15, -1. So I don't see any repeats, and so we're going to say yes, it's a function, and because the domain does not repeat. Okay, number 2, same thing. We are going to take all of our domain numbers, so 12, 4, 1, 4, 2, 5. If you listen when I said that, there was a repeat. So if I list my numbers 1, 2, 4, I'm not going to write 4 twice, but there is a repeat, so I know that. And then 5 and 12. And my range, the -7 and, -8 would actually be first. -7, and then -2, and then 0, 3, and 13. And so when I map that, I'm going to have 1 is going to go, well, I'll just do these in order: 12, -7, 4, 0, 1, -2, 4 is also going to go with 3, so that's the problem right there. 2, -8, and 5, 13. So this one is not a function, and we're going to say because the domain repeats, and that's because of the 4. The 4 is going with both 0 and 3. Okay, so the next thing is just reviewing about function notation. We talked about this briefly last time, but the function f of x is read f of x. G of x, that's how it's written, and that's how you say it. So f of x is the result, and x is the input. And so another way that we're used to seeing it, we're used to seeing it saying y equals 7x minus 5. So y is another way to say f of x. So they're the same things. We use one instead of the other just because of what we're doing. So right now when we're talking about functions and we talk about input a lot, f of x is a more useful way to talk about it. Okay, here's the first 6 problems on the next page, and this is just more of evaluating the functions, which we've done a little bit of already. So you can write down the numbers that you're missing on your paper, and then you'll have a few minutes to work on that, and then we can come back and I will go through those problems with you. Okay, number 3, if f of x is equal to 6x minus 8, find f of 10. So f of 10, you are simply going to replace the x with a 10 and evaluate it. So 6 times 10 minus 8 is 52, so we're going to say f of 10 is equal to 52, and that's my answer. Number 4, g of x, 2500 times 0.6 to the x power, so g of 7 is equal to 2500 times 0.6 to the 7th power. Put that in the calculator, and you get about, we have to round it, it's going to be 69.984, and it says round to the nearest tenth. And so we're going to the nearest tenth would be the 8, make the 9 go to a 10, so we're going to say that that's about 70. So we would say g of 7 is equal to 70. Number 5, h of m, so we're going to find h of 7, and that's going to be -12 times 7 minus 1 over 5. So that's going to be -84 minus 1 over 5, and so you can use your calculator if you want to, but don't forget that you're going to need parentheses around that numerator. It's going to be -17. So if you're not getting -17 with your calculator, then you're typing it in your calculator wrong. Okay, number 6, f of w, so we're going to do f of 52, and that's 45 times 1 plus 0.03 over 12. This looks like a compound interest problem. So you're going to put that in your calculator. We've talked about how to do that before. So putting that in your calculator, you're going to get 45.5 and that's rounded to the nearest tenth, so f of 52 is equal to 45.5. Okay, number 7 is a little bit different, and you may not have known what to do with that. So this one, it says if f of x is equal to 30, and so my 30 is going to be the same thing as f of x, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 30 in place of f of x, and then what I have is I have an equation to solve. And so this is a two-step equation. I'll first add 12 to both sides because I'm trying to solve for x. I'm going to have 42 is equal to 2/5 x. And then remember that we learned this way back at the beginning of the year. And so at this point now we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 5/2. And that's going to cancel on the right-hand side. So I'll have x is equal to, and then 42 times 5/2. And that's going to give me 105. And so when it says find x, I'm going to say x is equal to 105. Now what that means is, it means that if I would have done f of 105, I would have gotten 30. So my input is 105 and my output is 30. That's the ordered pair that would be on the graph. Okay, number 8, same thing, g of x is equal to 81, so I'm going to write 81 is equal to 3 to the x power. Now this is a different sort of equation, and we don't right now have the skills to be able to solve something like that. So this is going to be more of a guess and check situation. 3 to what power is 81? So you're going to try some things. Let's try 3 to the first power. Well, that's just 3, so that's not it. What about 3 to the second power? That means 3 times 3, that's 9. That's not it. 3 to the third power? Nope, that's not it. How about 3 to the fourth power? That actually is equal to 81. So what that means, it means that x is equal to 4. So if you plug 4 in for x, you're going to get 81. Okay, here are the numbers for 9 through 12. So number 9, 10, 11, and 12, they're like the ones that I just did, 7 and 8, where we're telling you that h of x, or your result, is 3.5. So you're going to put that in place of the h of x and solve for x. So you can copy down the numbers and take a few minutes and work on those, and then I'll go over them. Okay, number 9, instead of h of x, we're going to write 3.5 because that's the same thing, is equal to negative x plus 11. So I'm going to solve that for x, and so I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides, and I'll end up with negative 7.5 is equal to negative x. Divide both sides by negative 1, and so I get x is equal to positive 7.5. Number 10, I'm going to write 1/8 is equal to 1/2 to the x power. So this, when you have an exponent that is your variable and you're trying to solve for that, at this point you only can guess and check. You don't have the skills that you would need to algebraically solve this. So we're just going to try, so 1/2 to the first power, 1/2 to the second power, 1/2 to the third power. So you can use your calculator to try those. So you'd want to put 1 divided by 2 in parentheses and then just try the different powers. You should find that 3 works, so 1/2 to the third power is equal to 1/8. Number 11, 64 over 15,625 is equal to 2/5 to the x power. So what I just said, you are just going to have to try different numbers and see what works. Now, your calculator is going to probably give you decimals because that's what they do, and so that's going to be a little bit hard. So what you can do is try this. Try 2 to the x power until you get 64. So just try that. So 2 to the first power, 2 to the second power, 2 to the third power. Find the one that works. So if you did that, the one that works for 2 to the x power equals 64, that's going to be 2 to the sixth power, so x would equal 6. So what you need to do is you need to do 2 divided by 5 to the sixth power, get an answer, and see if that's equal to 64 divided by 15,625. And you'll find that they're the same answer. So when you have something like that, you can just try some numbers and see, but really at this point, that's the only thing you're doing. So we're just having you do a couple of problems like that to just try and see what happens and see that you can find those numbers. Number 12, g of x is equal to negative 3, so negative 3 is equal to negative 5x plus 9 over 6, and so to solve that equation, we're going to multiply both sides by 6, so I have negative 18 is equal to negative 5x plus 9. I'll subtract 9, and then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. And so that's my answer, and I can just leave it like that. Okay, the last part of this lesson, we're going to be looking at graphs. And so we're looking at the whole function thing from a different perspective right now. And so on number 13, it says, what is f of 2? And I'm going to be using this graph to determine that. And so this graph, this right here, this is our f of x. And so I'm saying, what is f when x is 2? So if I'm saying x is equal to 2, if you'll write that down on your paper, that's going to help us with this. So go over to the x-axis at 2, and then go find the graph. You have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that point that's on the graph is 2, 4, and so that means when x is 2, f of 2, or y, is equal to 4, and that's the answer. So the next one, it says, what is f of negative 2? That means when x is equal to negative 2, what's the output? What's the answer? So if I go to negative 2 on my y or my x-axis and then go find the graph, I'm going to have to go down negative 2. So that means that the ordered pair negative 2 is on the graph. So when x is equal to negative 2, y is also equal to negative 2. Now 15 and 16 are asking the opposite question. They're saying when f of x is equal to 1. So in other words, that means when y is equal to 1. So you're going to go on your y-axis to 1. Oh, and look, there's the graph. So that ordered pair is 0, 1. So if y is 1, x is 0. So that's looking at it the other way around. Number 16, it says if f of x equals negative 5. So if y is negative 5. So think about it like this. You're looking for an ordered pair that has something negative 5 and is on your graph. So you go down to negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go find your graph. It's right there. So that ordered pair is negative 4, negative 5. So if y is negative 5, then x is negative 4. So you might need to pause this and think about that for a minute, but that's how you're going to do problems like this. Okay, looking at the next one using g of x. It says, what is g of negative 1? So that means when x is equal to negative 1. So the ordered pair I'm looking at is negative 1 something. So you're going to go to negative 1 on your x-axis, and then you're going to come down here, and you're going to find that it is negative 4. So that means that negative 1, negative 4 is on your graph. So when x is negative 1, g of negative 1, or our output, is negative 4. G of 1, that means x is equal to 1. So I'm looking for the input of 1, and what's the output? So I go over here to 1, and it's right there. So that ordered pair is 1, 0. So that means if my x is 1, my output, or my y, is 0. The next one, again, that's that backwards look, if g of x, so if y is equal to 5, so I'm looking for the ordered pair that has something and then 5. So I need to go up to 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there, and find the graph. It's right there. And it's also right there. So there's actually two different things that I could do. So this ordered pair right here is 2, 5, and this ordered pair is negative 4, 5. So I'm actually going to have two answers. X is either negative 4 or it's 2. Now that's still a function because I can have negative 4 be assigned to 5 and negative 2 be also assigned to 5, and that's not a problem. So it still is a function. And then the next one, if g of x is equal to negative 3, and so again that means if y is equal to negative 3, so I'm going to go to my y-axis on negative 3, and I'm just right there. But there's also this one. That one also has a negative 3 for a y. So this one and this one too. So this first one is 0, negative 3, and the other one is negative 2, negative 3. So my answer is negative 2 or 0. So you will have some questions like these on your test. So you want to make sure that you understand what we're asking in that situation. Okay, the last one is h of x. And we're going to use the graph. If h of x is equal to 16, so that means if y is equal to 16, so go on your y-axis to 16, and then find your graph right there. So your ordered pair is something 16, so your job right now is to tell me what is that number right there. On the next one, it says if h of x equals 4, so if y is equal to 4. So you're going to go on your y-axis to 4 and find the graph. So your job is to tell me what number goes in the x spot of your ordered pair. The next question, 23, it says, what is h of 5? So that means that x is equal to 5. Your job is to tell me what y is. So you're going to go over on your x-axis to 5, and you're going to go up until you see the graph. And tell me what you have to go up to. And then the last one, h of 1, that means x is equal to 1. You need to tell me what y is equal to. So you're going to go to the x-axis at 1, find the graph, and that ordered pair is 1 what? So the correct answers that you should have here, number 21, the answer is 4. Number 22, the answer is 2. Number 23, the answer is 32. And number 24, the answer is 2.